So here we are back at the back to school garden here in Saco, Maine at the Ecology School. It's September 1st and these crops have been growing all summer with very minimal maintenance. Very few, if any, weeds have come in and the crops are doing great. They're not quite ready to be harvested at this point. You can see the popping corn. You want the stalks to turn brown before they're ready. But they're starting to fill out. There should be a lot of popping corn when all is said and done. Just opened up some of the Vermont cranberry beans and they're still a little soft. And one way you can tell that the beans are ready to harvest is if you take a pod and you shake it and you hear a rattle. On this one, I'm not really hearing any rattle, so they're not quite ready. We've got our carnival squash here and it's starting to cure. One way you know winter squash is ready is the vine will start kind of dying back. The carnival will have a little bit more orange to it when it's ready, but it's starting to get firm, which is a really good sign. So they're starting to cure up. You want the squash to kind of come right off the vine by lifting up. This is called the peduncle that stayed here. Ideally that stays on. It's the stem. A few more weeks and this bed will be all ready to harvest. If I was going to be harvesting this garden bed, after I take all the corn, beans, and squash off, I would take some loppers and cut everything right to the base of the plants and then compost all the plant debris. By keeping the roots in place of the crops that were just harvested, it keeps that nutrients in the soil as those roots biodegrade, and it keeps the life in the soil intact. Now let's transition to planting our fall garden. Over the summer, we communicate with school garden coordinators about when to pick up fall supplies from a regional hub. Fall supplies include row cover, wire hoops to prop the row cover. You'll need rocks to hold down the row cover, 1 tray of kale, 1 tray of spinach, 2 trays of lettuce, and a spade to measure and make holes for the plants. Kale, lettuce, and spinach were selected because they are cold hardy and nutrient dense. Students benefit from a quick turnaround planting to harvesting these crops. Nothing like instant gratification. Our row cover and hoops come from Johnny's Seeds. Row cover provides season extension, enabling a longer growing season. Time to get our hands in the soil and start planting our fall garden. Here's what you need to know. In this video, I'm planting in 1 garden bed. There should be enough seedlings for most schools to plant in 2 to 3 garden beds. Beds that were planted with summer crops can be harvested and replanted with these seedlings as well. The ideal time to plant is in the morning or the afternoon rather than the heat of the day. Anytime you're transplanting, you want the soil level of the plants to end up at the same soil level they were at when they were in their tray. I'm using a trowel to make holes that are about 10 inches apart from one another. I've found it's beneficial to pre-make holes if you're working with students so you can have multiple students planting at the same time. I'm starting off with a tray of lettuce that has individual cells. Start by squeezing the bottom of the cells to loosen up the soil around the roots. I'm removing the lettuce seedlings from the tray and placing them next to the holes they will be planted in. I'm setting the roots into the holes and gently patting them down until they are secured. These spinach seedlings are in soil blocks. You may also have spinach that is in cells, just like the lettuce. Spinach goes a bit closer together, about 4 to 6 inches between the plants. With soil blocks, you need to tease the plants apart. I'm placing the roots into the hole and again, gently patting the soil around it until the plants are secure. Kale's up next, and it needs a bit more space, about a foot between plants. I'm gently separating each plant and placing them next to the holes they will be planted in. I'm putting the roots of the kale into the hole and again, securing the plants using soil around them. As always, after transplanting, it's time to water. You're going to want a watering can or the gentle spray of a hose to go around all the plants at least twice. Now that we're done watering, let's set up the row cover. First, you're going to want to gather several rocks that will hold down the row cover. The wire needs to be spaced 2 to 3 feet apart. I'm putting one end in at a time, about 6 inches into the soil, using the side of the garden bed to provide added support. Then lay the row cover over the bed, using a rock at one end to secure it, and straighten out the row cover. Ideally, you'll have enough slack on each side of the garden beds to put a rock down to secure. You can cut the row cover using a utility knife, as I am here, or you can use scissors. The row cover is specifically for when the weather gets colder. You may want to keep your row cover off during hot end of summer days. As always, water is dependent on the weather, but remember to water regularly. Lettuce can be harvested as students are in the garden. They can pick off the outer leaves to taste test or harvest the whole head for the cafeteria that can be utilized for salads or garnish. Remove row cover before the first heavy snow. Kale and spinach will likely start growing again in the spring. In those instances, harvest leaves in early spring before the plants go to seed. Thank you for learning about the Back to School Garden program. We hope your school will benefit from this and that it will bring your students a lot of inspiration and sustenance.